All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for being here today. I'm very happy to be here in front of you on what's a very special day for UConn athletics and the university as a whole. Just some housekeeping items before we get started with the formal program. The speakers today will be led off by our president, Susan Herbst. She'll introduce our athletic director, David Benedict, and he will then introduce our new head men's basketball coach. Coach Hurley will then have some opening comments, take your questions for a few minutes. We do have a couple staffers here with wireless mics, so please do wait to get a mic. Just raise your hand, get their attention, get my attention. We'll get one to you, and just say your name and affiliation before your question. There will also be a photo opportunity after David introduces Coach Hurley, and photographers, if you want to do what Steve does right here and crouch down, that would be great. Just stay low, not get in anybody's way for that photo op. Following that formal Q&A, Coach Hurley and David Benedict will be available right there in a breakout setting by those backdrops for some additional questions, and then we are going to hand out the memo of understanding between UConn and Coach Hurley after those proceedings. So, without further delay, I'd like to introduce our president, Susan Herbst, to get us started.
Thanks. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everyone, to a great day for UConn athletics journalists. I know that you don't have to clap. You're doing your jobs here. But everybody else, welcome Dan Hurley. Where is he? So we are here to celebrate a new chapter in UConn basketball with Dan Hurley as our head coach. We're absolutely thrilled that Dan, Andrea, their sons, Danny and Andrew, and the entire extended Hurley family have become part of UConn Nation. So let me recognize a few very important folks here in the audience. First, some of our university trustees. Tom Ritter. Where's Tom? Andrea Dennis-Levine. Andy Bissett, Rick Carbray. Also drove up here, thanks so much, President-elect of the UConn Foundation, John Maffetone. Also, thanks for being here, our terrific coaches, head coaches, assistant coaches, trainers, staff, who make UConn athletics the envy of most presidents. I couldn't be more proud of how they win with integrity, with passion, and unlike a lot of presidents, I can send any one of our head coaches to any audience anywhere, and they will make us incredibly proud. And they can talk about athletics, talk about their sport, but also talk about the academic side of the university, which is, of course, at its heart. Jim Calhoun is here. I saw him. Did he come down from the rafters? So Jim built this program that we really cherish. Jim's rapid, astounding success is really one of the legendary stories in college sports. And with Jim here at UConn, has an office in this building, Dan really inherits a trove of wisdom. And also an opinion or two now and then. That's the part you're supposed to laugh at, yeah. But can I get very serious now and talk a little bit about love, which, at the risk of sounding like Lennon and McCartney, I think we could use a lot more of in this world. And we know Dan Hurley is a winner, he's a strategist, he's a motivator, he's a leader of people. But what so many people in the nation say, and what people have said to me and to Dave personally, privately, is that Dan is really a teacher and a supporter of young men in the most genuine way. He doesn't love the players in the easy way that fans do. He mentors them. He worries about their injuries. He's deeply accountable for their development. And that's about the best thing that a president or an athletic director could hope for. So I think consistent winning starts with a kind of a fundamental love of college students. And after that, it's just a lot of work, a lot of hard work. So Dan really does deserve to be at the college basketball capital of the world, which is UConn. I think everybody here knows that we're 4-time men's champions, and there's our banners to prove it, and 11 times women champions. No university comes close to that. We know our way around the White House. and we hope to be back. We expect a lot at UConn, but our fans will support Dan, support him really well in ways that I think will amaze him and his family. We actually know here precisely how difficult it is to get to the Final Four because we've done it so many times. Our fans will support Dan and his family. They'll travel, but they'll also leave him alone, I hope, to focus on our guys. So thanks, Dan and Andrea, for your openness to UConn, for your to the URI people who have supported you so vigorously, I know, these last few years. You know, Andrea, you'll join the other First Lady of UConn basketball, Kathy Oriyama, probably not here in Albany getting ready for the women's game, but I think that you have a great friend and collaborator there. So finally, of course, thanks to Dave Benedict. He holds it all together with a lot of panache and 24/7 dedication. The department could not be in better hands, and so I asked him to come up to the podium. Dave.
Thank you, President Herbst, and thank you, Board of Trustees that are here. The reality is we couldn't be in this unbelievable facility. We couldn't be making this announcement today if we didn't have the support that we have here. There's an unyielding commitment to excellence at this university that permeates every aspect of it. And our president and our Board of Trustees, I can't thank you enough for your support and allowing me to go out and bring our new coach here to the Worth Champion Center. I also want to thank my wife. She's not here, but I told her a couple weeks ago that I apologize. She said, "What are you apologizing for?" I said, "This is going to get crazy, and I'm just apologizing now because it's going to be a difficult process." And it was, but the result is great. We are excited about today, but I want to talk a little bit about our past, a little bit about our history, and what brought us to this point. 32 years ago, in the spring of 1986, the University of Connecticut was seeking to transform its men's basketball program from a successful regional program to a nationally regarded program. And when we hired Jim Calhoun, the coach said he believed it was doable. An unexpected NIT championship in 1988 moved UConn basketball onto the national stage for the first time. And for the past 3 decades, UConn basketball has been among the most successful major college programs in the country. When Coach Calhoun arrived at UConn, the school had won a grand total of 4 NCAA games. Since 1990, UConn has won 55 tournament games and 4 national championships. Coach Calhoun was correct. It was doable. The first 3 NCAA titles in 99, 2004, and 11 were under the direction of our Hall of Fame head coach, Coach Calhoun, and certainly Kevin Ali in 2014. 4 national championships in the past 19 years. No school in the country can match it. We repeated ultimate achievement during these past 2 decades. Today, with the hiring of Dan Hurley as UConn head coach of men's basketball, we reaffirm the university's commitment and intention to continue to compete as one of the country's elite basketball programs. I want to restate that. The university is committed to competing at the highest levels. As a collegiate player, as an assistant coach, and as a head coach on both the scholastic and intercollegiate level, Dan Hurley has been a successful coach and is the perfect fit to lead our men's basketball program. Coach Hurley's work ethic, his passion for the game he coaches, and the relationships he builds with his players, both on and off the court, speaks volumes about our new head coach. Recently, a video displaying the emotional arm-in-arm walk off the court of Coach Hurley and his fifth-year senior, E.C. Matthews, after the NCAA game tournament loss to Duke is a powerful testimony to the very real bonds that are forged within a Dan Hurley program. Dan Hurley comes from a unique basketball family. A family is paramount for any program that Coach Hurley leads. Dan played scholastically for a Hall of Famer, his dad, Bob Sr. I'd like to recognize and welcome the University of Connecticut campus and the UConn family, Dan's parents, Bob and Chris. Thank you for being here. those of us that are obviously very familiar with his brother, Bobby, who was a two-time national championship. We all know where we played. We won't say it. And was Dan's assistant coach at both Wagner and Rhode Island before moving on and is now leading the program at Arizona State. Also with us today are the newest members of the UConn basketball family, Andrea, where are we here? Andrea, Danny, and Andrew. Welcome to the family. Dan's six-year tenure at Rhode Island has truly been remarkable as he continually elevated the URI program, winning games and conference titles, earning NCAA berths, and energizing a fan base. Now it's time for our fans throughout the globe to join together as we welcome him to UConn Nation. Let's bring up our new men's basketball coach, Dan Hurley. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I knew it was going to be big today, but wow. Just want to, thank some people. I promised to be brief. My last couple of introductory press conferences have gone a little bit long, according to my wife, Andrea, so I'll go quickly with the thank yous. Father Edwin Leahy is the headmaster at St. Benedict's Prep. I know Coach Reed with soccer knows Father Ed real well, but he gave me my first opportunity to coach as a head coaching opportunity at the high school level for 9 years at St. Benedict's Prep in Newark. And it was a transformational time period for me because I learned how to be a leader and learned how to be a head coach without the pressure of maybe doing it at the Division I level. So I was able to hone my craft there, and he remains a great mentor for me. So thank you, Father Edwin. Walt Hamline is the athletic director at Wagner College in Staten Island. He took a chance on a straight from high school head coach right to the Division I ranks as a head coach, and gave me my break that I needed to get into the business. And I'll forever be grateful for that opportunity that obviously eventually led to this. Thank you to Thor Bjorn, David Dooley, University of Rhode Island, the state of Rhode Island, the amazing fans there. The last 6 seasons we built something special there. We'll always have a special place in our hearts, and I know that program's just going to continue to grow, beyond my departure. Also, my brother Bob. Thanks, Bob. It been a tough flight for him to get here from the desert out west, but we broke into this business together at Wagner College. He fooled me into hiring him, 8 years ago, and just want to thank him for all the love and support and advice. He's an amazing companion, and I love him. My mother-in-law, Patty, and my brother-in-law, Ken, who've been kind of thrust into this basketball world along with their daughter, and they're holding up pretty good, and they've been a great support staff, and they've been with me since the start at the high school level. My parents, Bob and Chris, I don't know if I'm supposed to say mom and dad, but Bob and Chris, my father and mother sacrificed everything for the amount of time that they spent with me, my brother, and my sister. Sacrificed, his career. He could have coached at any level of basketball, but he chose to be a community man in Jersey City and to sacrifice his own career for the time spent with his sons and daughter, and the way they've raised me, and has made me the man I am today, and I love them very much. And then my wife, Andrea, and sons, Danny and Andrew, an amazing support system. They there's a lot that they have to deal with me during the season. I'm a pretty emotional coach, and I'm pretty obsessed with winning. And oftentimes they're the ones that are picking up the pieces, after a tough loss with me. And they form an amazing team in my house. So I love you, and their sacrifices have allowed my dreams and my career to come true. So thank you, and I love you so much. I'd also like to, just obviously thank Dave Benedict and Susan Herbst for, just giving me the opportunity to lead this, this program, this elite college basketball program. I'm obviously humbled by it, and the opportunity to lead this storied program is just the opportunity of a lifetime for me. So, thank you very much. I'll be brief with my remarks. It's simple. It's, again, it's humbling to lead this storied program. UConn is one of the great brands in all of college basketball. The success on both sides, have made it a brand that could stand up to any other, in college basketball. The championship culture that's been established, through the great teams, the great coaches, the national championships, all the championships, is special for me to be a part of. I couldn't have found, I'm a 45-year-old coach. I feel like I'm getting better every single season, every day. I'm getting better as a leader and as a coach. And what better environment can I come into to continue to learn and grow than the environment here? The opportunity to work with and learn from Coach Ariema, one of the great basketball coaches, in college is amazing for me to continue to grow and develop. What a chance. And good luck this weekend, Gino. All right, good luck. Do what you do. Coach Calhoun, Coach Calhoun's been a role model of mine since I got into coaching. My father obviously has taught me everything I know about the game, but Coach Calhoun, I've long admired, who he's been and what he's built, here. It's secretly been, I didn't tell Bobby this, but, outside, UConn's been, my favorite college basketball program as a fan. The way that coaches' teams went at people, how they attacked on both ends of the court, obviously the style of play, the aggressiveness, and then, just how tough and attacking he was as a coach, are all things I've tried to model myself after. I had a chance, obviously, up close to compete against coaches' teams. It didn't go very well for me, but I learned a lot from playing against those great teams. And I also had a chance to watch, some of Bobby's teams, compete against coaches' teams. And Bobby fared better than me, but not that much better. So obviously, to learn from one of the best college basketball coaches of all time, a college coach that deserves to be on Mount Rushmore with the greatest to have ever walked the sidelines in college. That's a tremendous resource for me, and it's going to give me a great opportunity to continue and learn and grow with this program. And I do believe that, my father, this Hall of Famer over here is like you're the college version of what my dad would have been if he ever would have decided to do a coach, and that's the ultimate compliment, because he's one of the best too. We'll begin by building a championship culture, with that group of men over there. We met, we talked about, what my expectations would be for them between now and March of next year. Sky's the limit for that group. The commitment that needs to be made, I think these guys all understand. That they understand the program that they're in, the prestige, the tradition, the responsibility of putting on a UConn uniform, is a pretty great responsibility, as great as any responsibility of any program in the country. And that looks like a highly motivated group to get this program back to the level that it deserves to be at. So look forward to working with those guys. We'll begin by developing a championship culture. You know, for me, that centers around being the hardest working, hardest playing team in the country. You know, that's our goal for when you see us opening night in November. The product you see on the court, there's not going to be a more connected team. There's not going to be a harder playing team. It's not going to be a team in the country that's more committed to winning and more connected to each other. That's the type of culture that I create when I take over a program. I understand the standards here. You know, I understood the standards while I was thinking about, you know, when our season ended, after I met with Dave and Susan. You have to, at that point, kind of understand potentially what type of program you're going into. And for me, I understand the standards at UConn basketball. You know, I understand, you know, what that means, those banners to my right, you know, the players on the walls all around us. I know what it is here. I know the history. And I'm excited to, you know, get back to building this thing into the championship program that everyone here deserves in this building. So couldn't be more, you know, it's a dream come true for me to be here. This was the place that I always hoped I'd have a chance to coach. And it's like a dream come true. So, questions?
Hi, Coach. Pat Eaton-Robb from the Associated Press. Welcome.
Thank you.
You had mentioned, obviously, you played against UConn teams at Jim Calhoun. So are there any specific memories? Is there anything that helped form your opinion back then that led you to this point?
I would say a couple things. Well, playing against Coach Calhoun's teams are always difficult for me. You know, the 2-2-1 three-quarter court press with like Scott Burrell at the top of it, Danielle Marshall floating around somewhere, Sheffer. You know, Ray Allen, unfortunately, I think guarded me in my last college game. I don't know what the stats were, but it was pretty ugly, I think, in the Big East quarters or semis. And it might have been a 3 for 15 I threw in there. But Ray was a real total class act. He kept asking me how I was doing and if I felt okay. You know, and so my memories are really Seton Hall, senior day at the Meadowlands. I think there might have been 12,000 UConn fans and 6,000 Seton Hall fans that day. It's my memories are, you know, it being, you know, the standard in college basketball, you know, there with Duke and just being one of the college, most exciting college programs in the country, a real brand that transcends, you know, whatever conference they're in.
And Dave Borges, New Haven Register. Obviously, in 2 years, you really turned around Wagner and did a good job turning around the program at URI. Was that part of the reason you wanted to come here, to kind of the challenge of maybe rebuilding the brand here a little bit? And how much of a challenge do you think that'll be from here on? Well,
you know, the number one reason for me was that this was a, you know, dream job for me. You know, I've talked to years, people close to me, you know, knew that this was a small list of schools that I always dreamed of coaching, and it was at the top of that list. What was the second part?
How much of a challenge do you think it'll be?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even, you know, I'm very comfortable in obviously taking over programs that, you know, have fallen on hard times, and you know that this is nowhere near the situations that I probably walked into at Wagner and at Rhode Island. You know, I believe that, you know, that group of, you know, young men to our right has a much better season ahead of them next year if they're fully committed the way they need to be. It's not the same rebuild of the last two that I've taken over, and at a place like this with all the resources and the tradition and history, you know, that I could move things along a lot quicker.
Gavin Keefe from the New London Day. What's this week been like for you? Obviously, anytime you go to another program and you're leaving one that you love, there's a lot of emotion involved. What's it been like?
It's been bittersweet, you know, because this has been a dream of mine to be here. But I grew. I'm an emotional person, first off, and I developed really deep relationships with my players, the people that I work with, you know, with our fans and the state of Rhode Island. So it was hard. You know, I got so many, calls and messages from people saying, "What's taking you so long? You know, are you crazy? That's UConn." But the true affection that I have for the place that I've just been for 6 years was difficult for me to walk away from. And I knew I wanted to be here. It was just hard to make the call to the athletic director, and it was hard to meet with the players and tell them. I think that was probably the delay, procrastinating on what that was going to feel like.
John Henry Smith, NBC Connecticut. Welcome to Connecticut, Coach. Could you, piggybacking on that question, could you give us a little more detail about how hard the decision was for you and what, the time frame that you came up with your final decision, and maybe if you made your list about, hey, pluses and minuses of this job versus the other, how did that go?
Yeah, I truly didn't think about my coaching future until probably Sunday night or Monday morning after we lost on Saturday. So for me, I really started to process a lot of this on Monday. Obviously, meeting with David and the president was when I really started to first kind of figure out what I wanted to do. So the process, for me, I like to think things all the way through. And again, once I knew I had the chance to coach at a place that I always dreamed of coaching at, it's just the hard part just became telling people that you've grown to love so much, that you weren't going to be there anymore, and honestly, the pain, the pain I knew it would cause, to the university, the fans, to the players, was honestly just something I was trying to avoid. But once I met Dave and the president of school, I think our family knew that we were probably going to eventually be here.
Neil Astrow with the Journal-Inquirer. Not that Wagner or Rhode Island aren't, but how much do you see this as a destination job? And obviously you are adept at building programs, but what's the possible longevity?
Yeah, I felt like I didn't know if I would coach at Rhode Island forever. With the way things had gone the last couple of years for us, it kind of felt like it might go that way. Just the way that the momentum and the way it was building, but I knew deep down inside I wanted just one more job in coaching, and a place where Final Fours and national championships, are a real distinct possibility. And I had to make one more move to put myself in that position, and this was that move, and this is that destination.
Don Amori from the Hartford Courant. Dan, when your memories of UConn obviously are when they played in the original Big East. In considering this job, how much did the conference affiliation, or at least the perception of it, figure into your deciding whether this was still the same type of job it was?
Yeah, I think if I was having conversations with maybe a number of the other teams in the conference, it might have been something that would have been a concern. But just the power of the UConn brand, the tradition, Coach Calhoun, the NBA players that are still playing, and just the history and tradition just transcends the conference. Walking around in July recruiting period, with the UConn across your polo or your shirt is a very, very powerful thing. I understand it because I was a high school coach for 9 years. So my high school background just gives me a greater appreciation, for what UConn, what that means when you call a recruit or text a recruit or walk into an open gym. Man, it's a powerful thing when you're walking in there as a head coach of the UConn Huskies.
Dan, here, Ken Davis from the athletic.com. When you came in here in 2011 with Wagner, we had a discussion about Coach Blaney and how much he meant to you. Just wondering, after you've had all this time to develop as a coach, do you think you're more like your dad, or are you more like George?
I like to think that I've taken, what I could from both coaches. I mean, I played for my father, my whole life, and through high school. I'd say 90% of everything I do comes from my father. Everything at the defensive end of the court, and we've been one of the best defensive teams in the country at Rhode Island. And then, my college experience, was interesting. Obviously, played for P.J. Carlissimo my first couple of years, and then when Coach moved on to the Portland Trailblazers, I was at a critical moment in my life. Things had not gone well for me as a player. I was struggling to live up to the expectations, and then with Coach Blaney, he developed just this deep relationship with me. This love and father-son type of bond that I carry into my coaching. I saw my father, serve young people for 50 years that way, and that impact of Coach, his heart. The way he loved me for those 2 years and treated me like a son. If it wasn't for Coach Blaney, as much as I love basketball, I wouldn't. If my Seton Hall career didn't end with him, I wouldn't be in coaching.
Hi, Dan. Jeff Jacobs, Hearst, Connecticut. You're known as a pretty fiery coach, but in the last year we've been reading about meditation and yoga and things like that, and I was just kind of wondering if you could touch on that path and kind of where we stand in all this, because I think everybody in this here agrees that Connecticut's pretty used to some pretty fiery dudes coaching.
Yeah, I mean, listen, all the meditation and yoga in the world, isn't gonna. I'd say it's probably calmed me down in between games. After a tough loss, I'm able to handle, a tough loss. Just with my morning routine, it's I'm pretty meticulous, with my exercise, my diet, my sleep, how I feed my mind, what I'm reading. I try to take care of myself. It's a pressure job. There's high expectations in any college coaching position, whether it's URI or UConn. So I try to manage myself better so that I could make better decisions, be a more composed leader. I'm a very demanding coach. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. During practice, I don't think that the players will experience tougher practices, more up-tempo practices, more competitive practices. Our practices are legendary. Once they throw themselves into it, they're not going to want to train any other way. And I'd say most of my game night intensity is more energy that I'm trying to bring to my team. On game night, I'm a supporter. During practice, I'm a little bit of a butt kicker. And then, I just think that I've grown a lot in terms of just trying to, calm down with the officials, because they're very easy to get distracted by those guys. So.
Coach, can you address how you plan to build your staff? We heard Tom might be coming. We heard you might be keeping at least one person from this staff. And how are you going to go about that, and how soon do you expect to have a full staff?
Yeah, so there's, we're kind of waiting for some dominoes to fall at the University of Rhode Island. My associate head coach there, has a chance to potentially be the head coach there, which, is kind of going to be something for the next couple of days. I'm going to have to, create some different scenarios. Obviously, I'm, talking to a bunch of, diversified, smart, well-rounded coaches. For me, it's important that, that I have a diversified staff that's going to be able to serve the players and relate to the players in a lot of different ways, comprised of former players, coaches, just different backgrounds, but just smart, hardworking people, and people that are going to have the biggest impact on the personal development in these guys, and obviously in their career development. But obviously my staff will be comprised of people that fit my recruiting, the footprint, or the geographical area that I like to recruit in. The staff will probably reflect a lot of the Mid-Atlantic. Thank you for coming.